16.29 miles, 7 minutes, 26 seconds per mile on average for a workout that included 3 times 3 mile repetitions at marathon effort with 1 mile float. And those floats being about a minute slower than my marathon effort and whatever kind of pace that ended up resulting in. This was a great way for me to take the Adidas Prime X out for a cold weather run. Now, before I give you my thoughts on how this shoe is doing in very, very cold temperatures, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that I purchased myself. No one sent it to me. No one's paying me to make this video. And no one's going to get a chance to preview any of my footage or my thoughts before you guys get a chance to see this video on YouTube. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the Prime X in cold temperatures. First, I'll do a very quick rundown on the specs because I have made a couple of other videos about this shoe already. But basically what we're looking at this shoe is a double illegal shoe, and it's illegal in 2 ways. One is the stack height in the heel. It's a 50 millimeter stack height shoe with a 10 millimeter drop, giving us 40 millimeters stack height in the forefoot. Now, it's illegal because 40 millimeters is the maximum allowable, at least for world athletics purposes. And if you're trying to set a world record or win a marathon, then that 40 millimeter stack height limit is going to kind of make a difference. But for the rest of us normal people out there, it's not a huge problem. And the other way that this is an illegal shoe is that there's 2 tiers or 2 planes of carbon in this shoe, and the rules only allow 1. So the first plane of carbon is that there is a half carbon fiber plate from here back to stabilize the heel, and then there's metatarsal rods that go forward. Now they're in the same plane, or they're kind of like as if they were one carbon plate, and so that way it's okay. And the metatarsal rods behave kind of like a carbon fiber plate, except it's rods versus like a scoop of a single plate. In addition to that, in this shoe though, there's also these gold things that you could see poking through the bottom, and those are carbon fiber blades, I think that they're calling them. And there's 3 carbon fiber blades that also kind of like scoop in the same direction underneath the metatarsal rod. So there's 2 planes of carbon that help with extra spring. And I guess you need all that because of all the stack height that's in here. The foam that's in here is all Lightstrike Pro, which is Adidas's most premium racing foam. So those are kind of like the main specs of this shoe. Now, the question becomes, if the shoe is double illegal, then what do you use it for? Now, most regular people can run and race their marathons in them if they want. Nothing in the rules for normies like you and me that prohibits us from doing that. But the way that I really like to use this shoe, and then a way I think that, like, if you were a professional, how you use this shoe, is that you would use this not as a super shoe, but as kind of like a super workout shoe. So on those long runs that you would maybe reach for a carbon plated shoe, or on those workouts that you might reach for a carbon plated shoe, you would reach for this one instead. And it's because it provides extra cushion. It's really easy on the body, and that's kind of my favorite thing about it. It has all kind of like the benefits of a carbon plated super shoe, but it's even easier on the joints, even easier on the body. I wouldn't say it makes the running any easier or that it makes you any faster than a super shoe would. I just think that it takes a little bit less of a toll on the body. So that way you can put in those high mileage weeks with those marathon pace miles or with those threshold pace miles and still recover for the next workout. So you can put in more quality sessions or put more into your quality sessions. That's the overall point of it. Do more work, recover faster, and build. So that's the idea with these shoes. So now let's talk about what it was like to run with them in cold weather. The workout for today was in 16 degrees Fahrenheit air temperature, so relatively cold. And I would say that the shoe did great. I can't say that there is much of a difference between running in this in cold weather, 16 degrees Fahrenheit, or running in it in much warmer temperatures like when I first tested out the shoe. Now, I wouldn't say that the spring is exactly the same, but frankly, 2 things. One, I generally feel like the way people talk about cold weather performance on foams is exaggerated. Generally speaking, that's what I think. The second thing that I think, though, is I can't really tease out how much the difference that I'm feeling is because of the cold effect on the foam or the cold effect on my feet. So maybe my feet aren't as sensitive to what exactly is happening with these foams as if this were a summer long run workout. But what I can say is that this is still a very fun shoe to run in, even in very cold temperatures. And it still is fantastic for a long run with marathon pace in them or faster paces in it, something in that moderate to threshold range. But I'm not saying it's perfect. It's still illegal, number one. And number two, it still is a very unstable shoe. So if you're just doing a very straight run on very flat surface, then I think you have nothing to worry about. You won't even notice that it's an unstable shoe. But if there's a lot of turns and if there is a lot of differences in the terrain, then you're really going to notice just how unstable this shoe can be. For me, even when I am taking some turns, I do find myself slowing down just a little bit just to make sure that I'm taking the turn with enough stability in the ankles. Otherwise, things might tend to slide around just a little bit too much. The cellar mesh is doing a good job keeping the foot in, but it can only do so much when the stack height is just this tall. Now, the other thing to worry about with the cold temperatures is this upper, which is literally see-through. Is this going to be especially cold? And I didn't feel like this was an especially cold shoe. So I'm not saying it's a winter running shoe. I'm not going to start running in like snow drifts in this thing. But as far as it being like too breathable, I didn't find like that was a problem at all. So overall, surprisingly, the Prime X is a pretty good winter running shoe as long as the path is clear, it's not icy, and it's not unstable or unpredictable in terms of the terrain. Anytime that you would use the Prime X in the summer, or any kind of run or route that you use the Prime X in the summer, as long as it's still clear for the winter, I'd say go for it. Now let's talk a little bit about the data in terms of a deep dive for the workout today. And I took all the data that I collected via the Stride Foot Pod and the Polar Watch in Polar Flow, and then I moved that over to a little synopsis in Stride just to make it easier for me to look at. And what I have is for each of the three, the first 3 mile block was 6 minutes, 47 seconds per mile at 276 watts. About 270 to 275 watts is what I think my kind of like marathon effort is. The second 3 mile block was a 6:49 minute per mile at 274 watts. And the third was 3 miles at 6:50 per mile, which is 270 watts. So the power and the paces are lining up pretty nicely for me. So I'm very happy with that. My goal would be to run a 3-hour marathon. So I'm right at kind of the paces where my marathon effort is matching up with my marathon goal time nicely. So I feel like that's a good thing. And the way I broke this run up with 3 times 3 miles is so that way I can start reactivating myself with longer stretches at this level of effort without like completely overtaxing myself. So I did have 1 mile breaks, which are very long in terms of recoveries, but it was at a float or about a minute slower, sometimes a little bit more than a minute slower per mile. So that way I still wasn't completely like recovering like walk break or a jog break or anything like that. I still had to kind of move a little bit. So that's the whole idea with it, just so I could generally get used to that idea of like keeping that foot on the gas for an extended period of time, total of 9 marathon miles with 3 miles of float in there as well. And then I did also have 4 strides in the workout. That's how Jack Daniels writes a lot of his long run workouts. There's strides at the end of long blocks of marathon effort. And I'm not sure what the physiological benefit of it is, but the only thing that I do think that I like about it is that it really makes you stay honest for the end portions of those marathon miles, because otherwise I find myself tending to like speed up a little bit, which may then change or alter like the benefit that I'm getting from the workout. So having those strides in there makes me remember, okay, I can't get too excited because I still have to do some strides at the end. And I will say that at strides kind of level of effort, I feel like the Prime X, regardless of temperature, starts to feel really mushy and a little bit sluggish. This like the super fast turnover just really isn't there in this shoe, and that's nothing new, and it's not something that's a surprise temperature wise. It's still fun to do the strides in this shoe, but it's not probably like the first choice that I would reach for if I were to say try to race a mile. So I'm overall happy with the progress of the workout, feeling good about that, and I'm still really enjoying this Adidas Prime X. It's a quirky shoe, but it's a lot of fun, and I feel great running in it, and I feel great after running it. So I'm a fan. So if you have any questions about the Prime X, feel free to put them in the comments down below, or better yet, stop by the live stream that I do Monday through Friday on my Livestream channel, the Kofuzi Run Club channel. I'll post a link to that down in the description, and I'd love to see you in the chat. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I will see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?